Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJAY Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate that. Much love to you. And if you are new to the channel, I ask that you hit that subscribe button. On your way in, I ask that you hit the like button regardless. Thank you so much for being here, being a part of this. Shouts out to everybody in the chat as everyone filed in to talk about the topic at hand. I'm pretty sure a lot of you already heard or, probably hearing right now, according to Saints reporter Jeff Duncan, as you can see on the screen here, it says the Saints will soon release Michael Thomas, and it shouldn't said. But of course, here we go. Jeff Duncan, pretty close to the team. We know he's been following and the team for many years, covering the New Orleans Saints. So I think we can pretty much say that his word is bond here. I don't think he would go out on social media and put this out there if he didn't have some credible sources. So it looks like an end of an era for Can't Guard Mike in New Orleans. I think that everybody here already knows how special Michael Thomas was before the injury. He was drafted back in 2016. He was a second-round pick out of Ohio State. There was a few wide receivers that actually were drafted before Mike T, but he was a guy that made a mark. His first year had over 1,000 yards receiving, 92 receptions, which was a New Orleans Saints rookie record. We know that he was on a warpath. He had more receptions than any other player. He had 500 receptions in 90 some odd games, which it was insane. And he was also the offensive player of the year. He was the first wide receiver to do so before Jerry Rice did it back in the late 90s. So Michael Thomas was on a Hall of Fame trajectory. I think we already know that. But unfortunately, things start to unravel, especially after the game week 1 versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in 2020. We know that it was after 2 minutes. You had Latavius Murray rolled over Michael Thomas' legs, a little friendly fire there. Nobody really thought it would be that serious, but it ended up really causing Michael Thomas a fair share of his career. We know about the following year when he was dealing with the injury, the surgery he was supposed to have. Of course, there was a little bit of a rift between, Sean Payton coming out saying that he should have had surgery a little bit earlier in the offseason and we wouldn't have had to deal with this. And he missed the entire 2021 season. And then in 2022, he was supposed to have a comeback season. But unfortunately, again, he got injured, missed a fair share of time. This season, last season, I should say, he played in 10 games, ended up catching a 9-yard reception, got sandwiched a little bit, and nobody really thought it was going to be that serious. And who would have knew that 9-yard catch would have been the final catch of Michael Thomas' Saints career. Look, regardless to how you may feel about Michael Thomas, some people feel like he's a diva. Some people feel like, he's not a good teammate. Some people feel like he's petty. Or, in some cases, people, may not think he's a good human being. But all in all, Michael Thomas was one hell of a football player. Still is, in my opinion. He just had a little bit of bad luck, and it's unfortunate. That injury in week 1 against Tampa Bay back in 2020 really cost Michael Thomas and Saints fans everywhere an opportunity to see an amazing wide receiver, put forth an amazing career, because there's not a doubt in my mind, if Michael Thomas would have never gotten hurt, we wouldn't be having this conversation. He would have went down in history as the greatest wide receiver in New Orleans Saints history, and probably one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history. I mean, the numbers that he put up before the injury were just absolutely amazing. And, he will be missed. He will be missed by Saints fans. He given Saints fans so many amazing moments. I think we all remember that game against the Los Angeles Rams, Week 8. I want to say back in 2018, when he went over 200 yards, caught that game-winning touchdown, pulled out the cell phone, Joe Horn style. We know about like some of his catches, the one against the Pittsburgh Steelers when they had to go under review, and him and Antonio Brown were basically kind of going at it. He hit the motorbike. You can tell he was really emotional for that game. Of course, the game against the Tennessee Titans, where he broke the NFL record for most receptions in the season, which still stands to this day with 149. So Michael Thomas has given New Orleans Saints fans so many amazing memories. It's just unfortunate that his career in the Saints uniform has ended the way that it did. To me, I just feel like this is the right move. I think that this needs to be amicable. I think that both parties need to separate. I think Michael Thomas, at this stage of his career, being 31 years old, just had a birthday, I want to say on the 3rd of this month. I just think that maybe he needs to go somewhere that's not in a little bit of a rebuild. Maybe somewhere where they have an established quarterback where he can actually get on track and maybe be more involved. And I think that's what he was looking for. Anybody that follows Michael Thomas on social media, a lot of what his gripes are involve him not being fully involved in the game. And when you know that you're talented and when you know that you have so much to give and you're not giving it, it can be extremely frustrating. But I just think throughout the years that he was dealing with injury and the Saints were waiting for him to heal, they couldn't do it anymore, right? And you have to add on to your team. You can't wait around for Michael Thomas to go back to being what he was. And you have Chris Olave, who has come in and has really emerged as that number one receiver. You got Rashid Shaheed, which comes as a breath of fresh air, a guy that wasn't drafted, but he provides a spark and can be a really good receiver, and the sky's the limit for him. And not to mention what you've seen from A.T. Perry, which, in my opinion, he'll probably serve as that possession receiver, maybe a go-to guy on third down to be able to convert. So when you look at these three young bulls that the New Orleans Saints have, they really set themselves up for future success offensively. So Michael Thomas, I'm pretty sure that someone is going to give him an opportunity to show what he has, to prove that he's still one of the best wide receivers in the game. And hopefully, he can probably put forward a couple more decent seasons to make it interesting towards the end of his career, where he belongs when it comes to the wide receiver position. So it's not really a surprise in my opinion, but I mean, I think it's pretty much set in stone. Now, it has not happened yet, but according to the sources that I've seen and some of the things that I've read, it seems like they are going to try to make this thing happen in the next few days. So we'll be on the lookout. We'll see what's going to happen with Michael Thomas. But all in all, thank Michael Thomas for his contributions to the New Orleans Saints. Definitely one of my favorite players still. I think that he's a little bit misunderstood. Most great players are. They're wired a little bit differently. They want to be great. They have this thirst to be the best. And sometimes that can come off as a form of arrogance or somebody that may be hard to deal with. But when you are that talented, that gifted, sometimes that you can be a little bit arrogant. But all in all, I mean, he was a special player in the Saints uniform, and he will be missed in the black and gold, no doubt about that. Definitely, in my opinion, I feel like he's done enough when his career is over to be in the Saints Ring of Honor. I really feel that way. I don't think that him not eclipsing all of Marcus Colston's records had anything to do with him not being talented. It was just a matter of the bad luck when it comes to the injuries. But he definitely should be in the Saints Ring of Honor when it's all said and done. That's just my opinion. I think he's done enough in the Saints uniform to at least have that when it's all said and done. But good luck to Michael Thomas. And as we look forward to the 2024 season, it's looking like Chris Olave's time, Rashid Shaheed's time, A.T. Perry's time, Juwan Johnson's time. Time for these young guys to step up and prove that they belong in the National Football League and they belong at being in the starting rotation. So there we go. I'll go ahead and read some of your comments and then we'll go from there. It says, yep, he would have been. I assume you're saying he would have been, the greatest New Orleans Saints receiver of all time. Yeah, he would have been. Mike took worst hit before payday, honestly. Yeah, I mean, look, the best thing that happened for Michael Thomas, and, we see this all the time, especially like I can think about basketball. I'll use a basketball example. I know some of you probably remember Isaiah Thomas. Not the Isaiah Thomas from the Detroit Pistons, but the Isaiah Thomas, that I want to say he went to the University of Washington, if I'm not mistaken. He was playing for the Boston Celtics. He was having a really good season. He was one of the top scorers in the league, and everybody was kind of wondering like, what are they going to pay Isaiah Thomas, right? And he was out there, man. He was battling. He's not the tallest guy in the world, but he had a little bit of some AI in him. You know what I'm saying? A little short guy. Had that Napoleon complex, right? He goes out there and he balls out. And he was really the face of the Boston Celtics at the time. And then, unfortunately, he had a hip injury right before it was time for him to get paid, and he never got that big payday. I mean, everybody was talking about he was going to, eclipse $200 million. And unfortunately, it didn't happen for him. And the lucky thing about Michael Thomas is the fact that he actually had that 149 reception season and then got paid. It would have been crazy, like, for him to get hurt during that season and he would have never got paid in the first place. So lucky for him, he was able to, come off one of the most amazing seasons among wide receivers in the history of football, and he got his payday. And then, of course, after that, it kind of went left for him as far as his health. So if he had that going for him, I mean, can you imagine getting injured and dealing with this ankle injury before you got paid? I mean, that would have been the worst. Look at these other wide receivers, and they're playing way better than Thomas. I don't want to say they're playing way better than Thomas, Jerry. I just think that so much time went by. The New Orleans Saints just realized that we can't build our wide receiver room around him anymore. Look, I think that if Michael Thomas went back to being what he was, like, let's just say, for example, the Saints didn't have a Chris Olave. I think that he could have still been out there getting 100 yards. I really do. Like, we seen, like, it wasn't so much Michael Thomas getting taken out of the picture. It was more so Michael Thomas is not the focal point of the wide receiver room anymore. Chris Olave is. So, of course, Chris Olave is going to get more targets because he's the number one guy. So I think that a lot of what we saw was the fact that the team was grooming Chris Olave to be that number one guy because that's why they got him. So in the process, it may look and be perceived as Michael Thomas not being good enough anymore. And that's just not the case. I mean, I think it was just one of those situations where the New Orleans Saints just realized that they can't commit fully to Michael Thomas because of his health. I mean, it's up and down. And you got to go with more of a sure thing. And that sure thing is Chris Olave. So I don't want to say, like, they were playing way better than he was, because even though when Michael Thomas was there, he was consistent. He was consistent, with 5 and 6 catches, 50 to 60 yards. So to me, if you would have gave him more targets, his stat line would have showed even better. So to me, he was still productive. So that wasn't an issue to me. I just think that the injuries played a huge role, and the Saints just couldn't commit to him anymore the way that he wanted to be committed to. Man, what, AB, come on now, get off the gas. What are you talking about? AB? No, I don't know exactly what I'm talking about there. I think I was talking about with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nah, they were actually going back and forth. They were actually going back and forth in that game. When Antonio Brown, I want to say, had maybe like 2 touchdowns, went over 100. But like it was Dez Bryant and the Dallas Cowboys against the Detroit Lions and Megatron. You know, I remember that when Megatron went over 300 yards receiving, and Dez Bryant was just on the sideline ticked off because Megatron had such a huge game and he was up in Romo face trying to get the football because it's a competition, man. Like you want to put yourself up against the best, and at that particular time, that Michael Thomas was one of the best wide receivers in the league. So this was before he got hurt, and they were going back and forth. AB was making plays. Michael Thomas started making some plays. So that's what I meant. So I don't know exactly if you looked at that or perceived that as a comparison, but that's clearly wasn't what I was saying. Let's see. LOL. We be getting in over there on Bleacher Report. I catch your podcast over there, TJ. Well, I appreciate it, man. I do a weekly podcast on Bleacher Report, and I'm asking everybody to check that out. I was try to see if I have some time. I'll go ahead and put that link down there so people can follow it. Let me see if I can actually pull that up for a second. I'm try to see if I could actually pull it up so I can put the link down there so people can follow and check it out. Yeah, I did an episode on Saints potential free agents. That's the last episode that I did. And it's a weekly podcast on Bleacher Report. So if you have not already, and shouts out to everybody that did follow the page. I'm going to go ahead and put that link down there. And I'm just asking everybody to hit that follow. Go ahead and follow me on Bleacher Report. We're trying to build up that platform over there. The more people that come over there and support that, we can probably make this not just a 1 week thing, but a consistent thing. And that's the goal, man, to grow and to elevate. So if you want to stay at the Saints podcast, to grow and elevate and be on a larger scale and a larger platform, just asking for everybody to support. Not asking anybody to donate to Bleacher Report. I'm just asking everybody to follow. So if you like the content, like me, just go ahead and follow that. And that'd be the best thing that you all can do for me. And I really do appreciate everybody that did it already. Man, just think if Mike was healthy and Traquan Smith's season was still here. Probably, have 70, 80 receptions more than Traquan Smith did. Look, Traquan Smith is who he is. And, it just didn't work out. So, I mean, we kind of passed that now. Traquan Smith is no longer with the team. The Saints have some better wide receivers, some young, hungry guys. See a lot of potential there. So no need to take shots at Traquan anymore. He's not here. A.T. Perry is baby can't guard Mike. I think that I think A.T. Perry can be special. I kind of pump the brakes on, like, I know how we see it. Like, we see guys making plays and we see promise and all that other stuff, but I try to reserve my judgment until I actually see guys, go out there and see what they can do. I just think that we kind of fall into that. I kind of fell into it like when it came to Marquez Callaway. When all the receivers went down and Callaway kind of emerged as that number one guy. He had that good game against the Detroit Lions, and all of a sudden everybody was talking about how Marquez can be a potential number one, and he can be in a rotation, and it didn't pan out. All they did was send him out there for quick slants, right? Because Michael Thomas was hurt. That's all he did. And I think everybody remember that classic NFL film footage with Carlton Davis saying to him, man, you do the same route every time. So I like to reserve my judgment, man. I think that he has a lot of potential, always has. Maybe the Saints will probably, he'll get an uptick of his workload, but I'm going to pump the brake to say that, he's going to be the answer. I don't know if he's going to be the answer or not. He has a lot of promise, but he has to prove it. Bro, we got to check out Mike T's latest tweet. I'm not exactly sure what he said. What did he say? Let me see if I can actually pull it up. If he did say anything, let's check it out and see. Okay, so all right, so I got it right here. So Michael Thomas just They put this up. Let's see what it says. It says, look at this clown. Y'all think he know ball? Yeah, right. Y'all really clicking links to what he writes. Hashtag good luck. So, I mean, it don't seem like Michael Thomas is too happy with Jeff Duncan, not too satisfied with what he had to say. It don't seem like he really likes him very much. And you can kind of tell. I mean, this kind of goes back to a couple of years ago when Jeff Duncan put that article out about Michael Thomas and some of the practices inside of the locker room, talk about, he was hard to get along with, didn't really treat the staff like, as respectable as he should. And, some people would consider that and look at that as a hit piece. Some people feel, and, I'm comfortable with saying this. I mean, I don't know Jeff Duncan. I mean, I've interviewed Jeff Duncan. He's been nice enough to come on the show a few years back. But everybody that, I talk to for the most part feels that Jeff Duncan is what you call a do-boy, basically doing the bidding of the organization, right? Putting the hit pieces out there to try to put these players in line and also kind of make fans turn on certain players, right? By putting certain things out there. And you have some individuals that follow Jeff Duncan and believe everything he says and regurgitates everything that he says and basically just follows the team, right? So some people look at him as the hit man, right? The Saints hit man, putting the hit pieces out to turn the fan base on players. Like I said, I don't know Jeff Duncan that well, but that's the way that a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people, but that's some of the feelings that I've gotten from members of the Who Dat Nation. I'm going to scroll down a little bit because a lot was said. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. It says, Shaheed, Olave, Boyd, Johnson, Kamara, Hill, and Carr. See you at Who Dat Camp 2014. I don't know if you mean 2024 or not. But look, I think that you got some talent out there on this team. I don't think that, the Saints were talented last year, right? I mean, they had enough talent to make the postseason, so I'm not concerned about that. This is more so about a guy and Michael Thomas, who is arguably the greatest wide receiver to ever put on a Saints uniform. And I only say arguably because he got hurt. Like, to me, if he didn't get hurt, it wouldn't be anything to argue about. Like, he's that special. He is that good. So, you still got a lot of talent on his team. That's not a big concern. I think the Saints offense is going to look really good in 2024, but it's just unfortunate that Michael Thomas will not be in that number, no pun intended. Nah, TJ, your boy compared Mike to AB. Oh, okay, M-Dot. I wasn't sure, man. I know I mentioned something about AB and Michael Thomas. Like I said, the Saints playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. That game they end up winning, giving them the number one seed in 2018. And I was saying both wide receivers were really going back and forth with one another in regards to trying to make plays and helping their team be able to get that win. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, at that particular time, it was an argument to have, but I think Antonio Brown, before like all of the antics and all of the crazy stuff happened, I think he was the best wide receiver in the league at that time. Michael Thomas' career like Derrick Rose, too soon. I don't want to say his career is like Derrick Rose, because here's the thing, like Derrick Rose still is playing, like unless like he ain't playing anymore. But last time I checked, he's still involved in the NBA. And if he's not there, then I don't follow NBA like that. He's still being a part of it. Now, you can look at this two ways, right? You can look at Derrick Rose, the explosive Chicago Bull, who was the youngest MVP, to ever win that award at the time when he did it. You can look at it like that, like the explosion, like the excitement that he had, playing for the Chicago Bulls, but Derrick Rose still playing pretty well. Like I think like a couple of years ago, he had like 50 points in a game. So, I ain't shed no tears for Derrick Rose, but I get what you're saying. Like, like he was on a trajectory to be an all-time great. Right? Kind of like Grant Hill was, like when he played for the Detroit Pistons, right? Before, he started dealing with injuries. Grant Hill was going to be like one of the best, the creme de la creme at the power forward position. But even though he played for a longer period of time, he still wasn't the Grant Hill he was for the Detroit Pistons. So I get what you're saying. But, I mean, he may not be the Michael Thomas of old. He may not be the Michael Thomas that everybody expected for him to be, but he can still be, in the league. He can still, make plays. And here's the thing about Michael Thomas. And this is Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas has a skill set that doesn't really diminish. Like, if you're like a Chris route runner, you have really good hand discipline. He never been the fastest wide receiver in the world anyway. So there's always going to be a lane for you. Like Michael Thomas, if he can stay healthy, and be a part of a team, for an extended amount of time, like, he still can put up some numbers. Do I feel like a team is going to make him their number one priority? Probably not. Not going into it. Like, if their starting wide receiver goes down and Michael Thomas is on the depth chart, they'll probably slide him into that position, and then he'll become that number one guy, and he can probably prove himself. But I don't think if the Saints release him, and all signs indicating that they will, if he goes to another team, he's going to have to earn it. I don't think any team at this point in his injury history is going to say, well, we got Michael Thomas, let's build the offense around him. I don't see that happening. Any team that he goes to, he'll probably be a supporting cast member until he gets his moment, and hopefully he can be well enough to prove that he still has what it takes. And I feel like if he does that, then the team will probably commit to him and give him more catches than you'll probably consider giving him just by signing him right now. I said when Thomas broke the record, we should trade him for two first round picks instead of signing him to that $100 million contract. Well, Courtney, I'm gonna say this: hindsight is 20/20, right? It don't sound like, to me at that particular time, not knowing what I know now, I would say that would be insane to even consider that, because he's a great wide receiver. He was a great wide receiver at the time, and if you looked at his numbers, every single year his numbers improved from his rookie season to the 2018 season. He had an uptick in catches, he had an uptick in yards, he had an uptick in touchdowns. So it would be insane, like, just to think like, okay, he's only going to build on what he did in 2018. So by saying that, it's like, to me, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like saying, I know we should have traded him because it would have been a smart idea. If we're not talking about the injury, I don't feel like that would have been the best option, because you need a top receiver, right? You need somebody that's going to be able to catch the football, be able to move the chains, and be able to demand that double team. So based on what he did in 2018, not knowing what he did in 2020 with the injuries and missing all those games at that time, like, I don't feel like that would have been the best decision. And definitely people would have felt like, you were tripping with that one, like, now, like, dealing with the injuries and stuff like that, when we say stuff, you can think about it and be like, you know what? I knew we should have traded him. It's like, no, we shouldn't have, like, he was that good. So it would have sounded crazy, like, to say to trade the guy, knowing what we knew at that time. Knowing what we know now, by saying that, it can make you sound like, a genius. But at that time, man, he was a beast. And I don't feel like that would have been the right move to trade him. TJ, look at Michael Thomas' tweet, LOL, he done went in on Jeff Duncan. Yeah, we just talked about that. We just put it up on the screen, man. Look, Michael Thomas ain't never going to shy away from words, Justin. I can tell you that right now. He's not going to shy away from words. He's going to tell you how he feel. And I ain't got nothing but respect for Michael Thomas for that. I don't. Like, some people, they want players to act a certain way. Oh, you're supposed to have decorum. You're supposed to have respect. Well, let me ask y'all this. Like, why is it that we hold these players accountable, but we don't hold these organizations accountable? We ain't holding these organizations accountable when they air out these players' dirty laundry, enough for us to sit up here and try to justify our feelings for a player. Like the organization will put certain things out about a player. We never really, for the most part, give the players the benefit of the doubt. We just take what the organization says to us and we just run with it. And we always put up this same old slogan. If you don't want to be here, don't be here, right? But we never really hold this organization accountable for some of the decisions and some of the disrespect that some of these players may feel. Like we looked at the survey that the players put out, I want to say last week, when they talk about like some of the conditions of the team, the coaching staff, how they're treated, the lunch, what have you, right? We don't really look at those things, right? Because we look at these players, oh, you're a millionaire. Oh, you make hundreds of millions of dollars. What you got to complain about? So when an organization puts up out about players, we're like, man, I knew that. But at the end of the day, man, these guys go through a lot and they have to deal with a lot. And when you have a player like Mike T that's not afraid to tell people how he feels, he's not sitting up here trying to button his button all the way to the top and be as PC as possible. People got a problem with it. But we don't have an issue when these organizations say some of these things about these players. So you can't have it both ways here, right? You can't just say, oh, the organization put this out. Yeah, I ain't never like him anyway. But when a player puts that information out about how he feels towards said organization, how they're treating him, how they may be treating other players on the team, we can't just turn a blind eye to that because, you know, we support the team. We can still support the team, but we still can call them out. I know I do it quite often here. I love the New Orleans Saints. I mean, I love them. Like my favorite team, born and raised in New Orleans. But if you're wrong, you're wrong, right? I love my wife, but if she's wrong, she's wrong. I love my son. If he's wrong, he's wrong. So I just think that, you know, we can't just say, oh, the organization said this, and then when a player comes out there and say how they feel, oh, all of a sudden, like he's a problem. Well, is the organization a problem? Somebody's giving Jeff Duncan this information. Somebody's giving Nick Underhill this information. Somebody's giving these reporters from New Orleans Saints, beat writers giving these guys information or these women information. Somebody's doing it. So why is it that we don't have the same type of energy for them? I guess we will have to look in the mirror and say, you know, we're supporting a team that has practices that we don't support. I mean, that don't make you any less of a fan. Once again, you can love somebody, support somebody, but don't like everything that they do. So I just ask everybody that may be critical of him to look at the organization as well and some of the decisions that are being made that we don't like. And we go on social media and we yell from the rooftops and we walking down the town with torches in our hand, you know what I'm saying, and pitchforks, ready to tear up the establishment. I mean, if you can do it, then why not players that's actually knee deep in it and know more things than we do? Like we frustrated just because, you know, Blake Ruby don't make a field goal on Sunday or Derek Carr overthrows a receiver don't catch the ball. But these guys are really in the thick of things that understand certain things that we will never understand. But they're supposed to be quiet. I don't understand that logic. I just don't. There was 2 other tweets about Jeff Duncan. Go back, TJ. Well, let me go ahead and take a look here. I'll go back and take a look and see what's going on. Let's see. Thank y'all for being here right now. Just looking, trying to see what he's saying here. Let's see. Okay, Michael Thomas. I'm going to go ahead and put this up on the screen. Let's see. He says, Jeff Duncan, funny how they planning on releasing me if I was on a 1-year deal. Don't fall for it. He's the same dude that tried to be my friend in season after saying I wasn't the same player in training camp. Next topic. All right. So he also said, Jeff Duncan is a hoe, trying to stay relevant, so let's speak on it. The Saints leak information to him to try to ruin players' value, but see, I'm not broke, so I can speak on it. He is broke, so he needs clicks. Go look at all his articles that never end up being true. All right, so it says, look like he take them salt things. So he really going in. on Jeff Duncan there. So there you go right there. So he really was going in on Jeff Duncan right there. Which, a lot of people, they have issues with Jeff Duncan, man. They really do. Like, I didn't really realize like how many people have an axe to grind. Like, I don't know the guy. Like, I don't know him like that. Like I said, a couple years ago, I asked Jeff Duncan to come on the show, and he did. And he was very, very kind, very respectful, you know what I'm saying, very informative. And that's my impression of Jeff Duncan. I never like met the guy like off, other than interviewing him. And I just know he's been around the team for a long time, like since, I think maybe I was like in high school, maybe. So I don't know him like that. So I'm not gonna like just, throw shade at him because I don't know him. It really seems like Michael Thomas has a problem with Jeff Duncan. And it goes back to what I was just saying. Like, I didn't even read the tweet, which pretty much sums up my entire point. Like, we take what the organization tells us at face value, right? And they sometimes they putting this information out there. Like, somebody is putting this information out there. If we're receiving this information, these reporters are getting it from somebody. I don't know who it is. I don't know. Like there's somebody on the inside. It got to be somebody PR. It got to be somebody like PR man or a PR woman or something like that that's giving these individuals this information. And, a lot of times they do that to try to make a player look less appealing. Sometimes they do it like to try to get a player's attention. At the end of the day, I just feel like if you're going to be upset with players, sometimes we got to look at the organization too and wonder to yourself, how did it said information get out about player? So I'm just saying you got to be careful. I'm sorry, TJ and everyone. It's been a crazy morning for me, so y'all pray for me. Now, it's okay, Jerry. And look, we're not always going to, feel the same way. And, that's okay, man. Like, it's okay. Like, I understand how you feel, and I can understand how a lot of people feel. Look, I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm not in that business. I'm just telling people how I feel from my personal perspective. And of course, it may seem like, because I'm the only person on the microphone here, it seemed like I'm just trying to be, I guess like the smartest person in the room. No, it's not that. I'm just being honest, man. Like, I just want us to be able to come up with conclusions and stuff like that. But also, I just want people to do their own research on certain things and look at certain practices. Because sometimes, man, we can come off as being a little bit hypocritical. That includes myself. So we got to be careful with that, man. Sometimes, we may not even realize it, but we may fall on the side of, a certain person or a certain thing unknowingly. So in order for us to be able to see both sides, it's best to see where both perspectives are coming from. If you have a problem with a certain player, you have to wonder to yourself, how did you get that problem with that player? Was it something that you read? Was it something that you saw? And if the information that you read and saw is given by a reporter, they had to get it from the organization. So there's that. Mike T, a real one. We also have, he said, Jeff, a whole out here. Mike T throwing tablets and chairs on his way. Look, they never seem to really like each other. And it really seemed like, Jeff Duncan had an axe to grind with him. I don't know why. But it just seemed like a lot of his articles towards Michael Thomas, they kind of lean towards, looking at him in a negative light. And I don't know where he's getting that information from. They gotta have like some level of validity behind it, because that's defamation of character if it's not. So maybe it was blown out of proportion, or it can look and be perceived in a certain way, but maybe it wasn't all that, sometimes like when we read certain things, it can come off like, yeah, I don't know about this person. So maybe the way that it was written, it didn't really seem that way in real life. And that probably is why Michael Thomas got upset. I don't take, and don't take this the wrong way, Michael Thomas is a good player. I can't take that away from the man. My opinion is the man just can't stay healthy. Yeah, and that's what it all comes down to. Look, the best ability is the availability. You got to be able to play. And look, what I feel about Michael Thomas is he's a really good wide receiver. And, he just got a real bad deal, real bad raw deal dealing with his health over the last 4 seasons. Everything I'm talking about when it comes to like him being a player is what he was before his injury. And, it's just on one of those unfortunate situations where somebody had an amazing career and they were on pace to have a stellar career and it got cut short due to injury. Right. I want to say maybe like Marcus Lattimore, the running back from South Carolina. I mean, an amazing running back, Adrian Peterson, right? Like Saquon Barkley, like catching the ball out of backfield, running between the tackles, big time at South Carolina. Tore his ACLs in his left leg and his right leg. Never was the same, right? Had a bunch of promise. Supposed to be the next this, the next that. Never panned out. So you hate to see stuff like that. You hate to see players that have so much promise get cut down in their prime. And it's unfortunate that happened to Michael Thomas. And I don't think that Michael Thomas is not going to not be able to play football at a high level again. It's just those years where he probably could have really separated himself from the pack. He's been hurt. So I get what you're saying, Jerry. I mean, good player, but it's time to move on. Like what the Saints are doing is based on like his availability. Like if they release him, it's based on his availability. He has not been available. Like his football play is not to be questioned. Like we all know he's great, but you have to be out there for everybody to know you're great and contributing to the team using that greatness. But if you can't, then it's a business at the end of the day. Like some of the stories that I hear, from the older generation, they talk about how they used to like plow the fields with donkeys and horses and stuff like that, and how they established these relationships with these horses and these donkeys, all these years, them, working for them, and all of a sudden that donkey or that horse has to go down. Like it may be a tough decision, but it's best, right? You can't have a nag lacking, and expect for your crops to be able to be, effective, to be able to work efficiently. Like it's nothing against that particular animal. It's just the fact that you need to get something a little faster, a little younger, a little stronger, right? And that's where the Saints are right now. Everybody loves Michael Thomas. Everybody loves what he's done in the Saints uniform, what he has contributed. I know I do. But that it's just business at the end of the day, man. It's just business. Mike T been collecting the check for the last 3 years. Yeah, I mean, basically, been collecting a check and, not much on the field when it comes to production. I mean, even he would have to tell you that. Like I don't feel bad about saying this at all because what I'm saying has absolutely nothing to do with how I feel about Michael Thomas as a player and a person. My job every day on a day-to-day is a radio personality, radio DJ, right? If I don't come to work and I don't put forth the effort and do the things that I need to do in order to help the radio station run, I mean, they can replace me with somebody else, right? Because I'm not pulling my weight. And, my intentions may be good. You know what I'm saying? Like I may work hard. You know what I'm saying? Like I like to say I work hard. Like if you look at when I first started versus where I'm at now, I think that I made progress. But like at the end of the day, if I'm not putting forth that effort or I'm not available to be able to show you what I can do, I mean, it's probably not going to work out for me. Bro, you're not lying about Shaheed. He honestly looked like Olave can separate, but doesn't attack the ball great. he really excels more in space, in my opinion. Look, I think both guys are really good. I think both guys are really talented. As a route runner, route runner, I think that Chris Olave is better when it comes to straight line speed. Um, a little bit smart. Like, I think both guys are smart. Don't get me wrong, but I think that Rashid Shaheed is a smarter football player than Chris Olave at this particular point. I think the decisions that Rashid Shaheed makes are they always seem to benefit him, and it always seems to work. Like, it's just something about Rashid Shaheed. Like, it's just something about him that it always just seems like he never panics, or it's like he always like seizes his moment. Like, ever since he's been in a Saints uniform, like, he has seized the moment. He's like, and when he makes plays, they're like extremely significant. Like, it's rather the Saints need this catch in order for them to be in a game, right? Let's just say the Saints go down by a couple scores and you really need to put a drive together. And it's third down and 11. You're going to see Rashid Shaheed like catch a pass that's for 12 or 13 yards. Like, it's just something about this guy. Chris Olave, to me, like I said, he's a much better route runner in my opinion. I don't want to say he has better hands. I think they both like got really good hands. But I just think that sometimes like Chris Olave can get lost in translation at times. But that can come with that gets better with like experience and stuff like that. But I think Rashid Shaheed, like, I never really see him panic. And then like he seemed like an infectious guy. Like it seemed like he loves playing football, and he loves what he does, and he's confident in himself despite like where how he came into the league. So there's that. This offseason about to be crazy. A.T. Perry is the next Mike T. I don't know if he's the next Mike T or not. I mean, they got a lot of similarities. They're both really talented, but we'll see. Jono says, hey, everybody, y'all got me thinking, and TJ, are we past due for another team up episode? Yeah, man. I mean, look, I'm always open, like to come on, or you can come on the show, man. It doesn't matter. I said, just let me know. Just let me know, man. I mean, it's getting around that time, and I mean, I know I've been kind of out of pocket as of late, man. Just got some other projects that I've been working on, and things that are like radio station related. I mean, it's beginning of the year, so a lot of things and a lot of plans have to come together, at the beginning of the year to be able to stretch out for the entire year. So that's where I've been at mostly. And then, of course, as your kids start to get older, you have to pay more attention to them, and as y'all know, well, some of you know, I have a 4-year-old son, and he's at that age, man, where you can't keep your eyes off of him, So I don't want to really be, preoccupied with doing that. I mean, family comes first. But yeah, I'm definitely want to make sure that, I take part in some of the opportunities, man, that people have, man. So just let me know. Looking forward to it. Says if Olave perfect tracking the ball, he would be a great wide receiver. He can get past the defense, but hasn't done a great job at tracking most of the throws. That's what I'm saying. Like, it just seems like when it comes to Rashid Shaheed, he knows where he is on the field most of the time. And then, like I said, I mean, he always steps up in like critical situations. Like it just seems like he's always around the football when the Saints need a play. And every time he touches the ball, like something positive happens. Like I never see that. Like, I gotta really think, have I ever seen Rashid Shaheed go backwards? Like, even like when a play like kind of breaks down, he has no business like getting any yards. He ends up getting 1 or 2 yards. Like, it's just something about this guy. Man, I'm just ready for us to rebuild, get rid of everybody, old players, coaches, quarterbacks, the medical staff peoples, the water boy, the guys that cut the grass, the people fix the food, everybody. Well, Trail, I mean, you just trying to clean house completely. Like, you talking about a straight U-Haul truck. Look, I just feel like the Saints aren't as bad as we think they are. I just think that they're mismanaged at times. Like, you look at the state of the NFC, you look at the teams. Like, just take a look at them. What team in the NFC? Let me make it a little deeper. What 6 teams in the NFC can you just say just leaps and bounds better than the New Orleans Saints? Half of the teams don't even have stability at the quarterback position, don't have stability at the head coaching position. You got inexperienced coaches left and right, and you have a bunch of teams that are trying to figure it out. That's the reason why, to me, it was egregious and blasphemous that the New Orleans Saints didn't make the playoffs in 2023, because you're probably not going to have a better opportunity at a chance at the Super Bowl like you did in 2023. Now you got a bunch of quarterbacks that, if they're rookies, they got a year under their belt. Teams that made bad decisions with coaches, they probably going to have a coach and is going to be able to help them figure it out. It was for the taking. So I just think that they're mismanaged. Like, I think they can make the playoffs with the team that they have. I think they should have made the playoff with the team they had last year. Despite, Marshawn Lattimore going down, Michael Thomas going down, injuries on the offensive line, like, I still feel like they should have made the postseason. So I don't think that they're that far off due to the fact that the NFC has struggled. It's not the AFC where you got murderous row when it comes to the quarterback position. Every elite quarterback in the league, for the most part, plays in the AFC. Is there an elite quarterback in the NFC? Like, I'm just thinking, like, is there like a without a shadow of a doubt, like a really good, clear-cut, like, elite quarterback in the NFC? I mean, I'm just thinking about it. With NFC, let's start in the NFC West. What you got? Geno Smith? Nope. Brock Purdy? Nope. Kyler Murray? Nope. I mean, honestly, who do you have? The NFC North: Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins. Well, which Kirk Cousins isn't even there anymore. I mean, who do you have? Justin Fields? Like, I mean, NFC South: Derek Carr? No, sir. Desmond Ridder? No, sir. Baker Mayfield? No, sir. Bryce Young? No, sir. Like, who is it? They don't have an elite quarterback. So to me, they're not that far off than a lot of people think. It just feels that way because, they ain't been to the postseason. But the Saints are like right in the middle like everybody else. Matthew Stafford. Yeah, I mean, Matt Stafford is probably the closest thing to elite, and he's not elite. Matthew Stafford is not an elite quarterback. Really good quarterback, like top-tier quarterback, but I wouldn't say he elite. His arm strength and arm talent is elite, but he's not. Like, if we're talking about, he's probably like he's like a B plus. Good, right? But nobody's mistaking him for Aaron Rodgers or anything like that. Like, Matthew Stafford is like the best quarterback in the entire conference. And even he is, like I say, he is like, look, I feel like this. You know how you go into a liquor store and then they got like all the top selling stuff on the top shelf? They call it top shelf for a reason. And then they got the next level, right? Probably good stuff, but not as expensive as the stuff at the top. That's Matthew Stafford. I mean, that's just how, I mean, just take a look. So the Saints aren't as far as a lot of people think that they are. Like, you got a bunch of teams in this division or this conference that are trying to figure it out. So as long as things are the way that they are, that's the reason why the Saints feel like, oh, we ain't got to make too many decisions, because they feel like nobody is really running away with it. Nobody feels like, oh man, we the best team, because everybody in the NFC can beat the other, right? It's like, I don't care how good going into 2024 everybody expect you to be. Everybody can beat any other team. I can't believe the Saints released Michael Thomas. They must be the dumbest team I have ever seen in my entire life. I'm done with the Saints. I'm done with them. I hate them for life. Look, I will say it like this. I understand your frustration, man, but if you're gonna let one player that has been injured for the last 3 to 4 years, and justifiably, like we gotta take our emotions out of this. Like honestly, we gotta take our emotions out of this. I need everybody that's watching this right now, that's listening to this right now. I'm just asking you to just imagine yourself as a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, right? And let's just say, for example, you didn't always start off that way, right? You worked your way up from the mailroom to the executive floor. So you kind of along the way have met some amazing people, right? Some wonderful folks. But then, like you get up there and there's a certain department that you really need in order for your business to continue to thrive. You have an individual that isn't what they used to be. They probably been there for a certain amount of time, could retire, but don't. You got to have, you may have to have that conversation with them. And it might be tough because you've seen this person every single day. And heck, they've probably been there about as long as you've been there. And you establish this relationship. So what can you do? Like, are you going to allow that person to stay in that position knowing that the efficiency that they once had is not there anymore and it's causing you money and time? Or are you going to have that tough conversation? Sometimes we got to do things we don't want to do for the betterment of the team. If we're talking about Michael Thomas, the person, I can understand why anybody or everybody wouldn't want him to go. But we're talking about Michael Thomas as far as a business investment, when he puts on that helmet and shoulder pads and that jersey, like he has not been pulling his weight as a player. As a person, cool. And we need to understand and we need to separate the two. So as a person, as a individual, as the mean streak, the energy, the passion that he plays with is going to be missed. But when it comes to his job is to be productive at the wide receiver position, and he has not been that for the last couple of years. So I don't think it was a dumb decision. It was the right decision. We may not like it, but it was the right decision. It's the right decision for Michael Thomas because Michael Thomas feels like he still has something left in the tank. He still feels like he can make a team better. He feels like he's a number one guy. But the Saints they're past that, right? When you invest a first-round draft pick in a talent like Chris Olave, you basically told everybody this is the future of the Saints offense. So it's just time for both to part ways. It's not personal. It's business. I mean, that's not a deal breaker, man. Like sometimes, like I said, we got to take emotion out of it. Like if you're a business owner or entrepreneur or have aspirations to do either or, you're going to have to make tough decisions. Sometimes you're going to have to make decisions that may not be popular. And this isn't a popular decision for most people because they like Michael Thomas. Excuse me. But it needs to be done. I love Mike, but you can see the injuries have taken it from him. Wide receivers, running backs with broken wheels is not a recipe for success. Well, I feel like this. I don't know if it took it out of him more so than I don't know. I think that the passion is still there. I think Michael Thomas still wants to play, but it is hard. It is hard to be the top guy, right? It is hard to be the top guy, and then all of a sudden another guy comes in, and for a fact that this is going to be the guy to replace me. Like that's tough right there. Like that is tough. I get like for some of my wrestling fans out there, I use this as an example. Everybody knows, you have to be living under a rock. Everybody knows Stone Cold Steve Austin. Everybody knows Stone Cold Steve Austin was one of the most popular wrestlers in the 90s. Everybody likes Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin is probably some of the reason why some of us got suspended from school. Rather we did a Stone Cold stunner to our best friend in the hallway, or we pointed the middle finger at somebody and our teacher caught us. right? But all those years, like he was the top guy, and then all of a sudden, you had a young, like strong, physical specimen in Brock Lesnar that came in, right? And the company wanted to, focus on Brock Lesnar as the face of their company. So they told Stone Cold Steve Austin, we need you to lose to this guy, right? And Stone Cold Steve Austin was like, well, how do I'm gonna lose to him? Like, and he didn't like it. So he went home, right? It's hard for someone who has been at the top, who has been the best at their profession, to turn around and just say, you know what? I'm gonna give this to this guy. I mean, when have you ever seen that? It is tough for a guy who has been at the top, a woman who has been at the top, for someone else to come in who is younger, supposed to be stronger, and everybody is grooming them to be the replacement for you. That's tough. If you are a competitor, that is a tough pill to swallow. So I still feel like he thinks that he's one of the top players, and he feels like if you give him more targets, he can take advantage of it. And I think he can. But I just think that the Saints are past that. And they did the right thing. Like all those years, you had 2 straight years of Mike T being injured. You got to do something. You can't just wait on him to heal and just say, we just going to wait for you. Like, the league goes on, man. To be continued. Let's see. You can see it because Michael Thomas isn't getting the separation he once got. Every catch is contested, but he still has amazing hands. Well, Jack, he never was able to separate. Like, Michael Thomas has never been a fast wide receiver in the world. He's always been a possession guy. And that's one of the main reasons why everybody like him so much. And that's the main reason why people that aren't fans of the Saints like call him slant boy, right? Because they feel like that's all he can run. But people don't understand like how physical you have to be able to have a cornerback jamming you at the line of scrimmage, because you give the cornerback 5 yards before they have to release you, right? So for him to be able to use his hands to be able to get separation enough to catch passes that are coming at him for about 60, 70 miles per hour, probably even faster sometimes, like that's pretty impressive. So he's never been like a burner and getting behind guys. Like most of the time, like if you see Michael Thomas on a street route or I don't know, man. You rarely ever saw that. So he's always been like in between the hashes type guy. Like he's always just been a guy, that finds the soft spots in the defense and take advantage of those opportunities. So I mean, to me, it's kind of hard to tell. It's kind of hard to tell, is he still the same guy? Because he played the same exact way. I think that's why I'm saying, like, if he goes to another team, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to contribute, because he's always been like the grimy wide receiver, even though he was the number one guy. He's always the guy that, got to be physical in order for him to get passes, get catches and touchdowns. Thank you, Mike T. You did what you could for us. Unfortunately, our quarterback needs true separation, throwing in windows, notice strength. Yeah. I mean, that's just what it is. They need a different type of skill set. But you still need somebody that's going to be able to convert. You still need somebody that's going to be able to, a big body that's going to be able to convert on third down. The first Saints player to break my heart was Joe Horn when he went to the Falcons. I was 12. Learned real quick that it was a business over feeling. Sadly, never loved the player as much since. Well, I feel this way, when it comes to, this business. This business is tough. Like I said, and you have these relationships with players, but you got to be able to separate the business from the love for the player. You got to love the player. You got to love, you got to love the organization, through thick and thin. And you can still have love for the player. Like I still watch, I'm a big fan of Marcus Williams. I still watch Marcus Williams play. I still will check out a Brandon Cooks, still check out Trey Hendrickson. I still check out former Saints, watch them play. I mean, you still can be a fan of the team, but a fan of the player, I should say. It's a business. Michael Thomas essentially made $597,000 per catch over the last 4 years. $56.7 million for 95 catches in 4 years. Yeah, I mean, but that's the contract. I mean, that's the contract, and it's kind of hard for me to feel bad and say, "Oh man, you stealing money." Like we all know that the NFL, for the most part, they don't like to pay these players, right? They'll commit he signs a 5-year, 125. Like we look at all these like mammoth numbers that these contracts entail, and these organizations basically don't want to sign these guys, push their money back to a point where they never going to achieve it, and we just okay with that, right? So I'm not going to be upset that a player signs a contract and he ends up getting injured, and they still have to pay him what the contract entails, because I'm just happy that this guy got his money. Because we see so many instances where guys will put up production, will make plays, will be upstanding citizen in the locker room, will be a locker room leader, and will be able to help and be on board to help groom the next generation of players. And they still don't get their money. Teams are still trying to find reasons not to give them their money. So I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. You got Fruit Loops, Fruit Rings, and Fruit Circles. DC is Fruit Circles. Luckily, for Mike, his play style doesn't revolve around speed and athleticism, just fundamentally sound with good hands. That's what I'm saying. Like, somebody asked me, would I want to be a receiver that was, known for taking the top off the defense, or a disciplined route running wide receiver? And that's why I say I will always want to be a disciplined route running receiver, because that's going to keep you in the league 10, 11 years. Like, one knee injury, you can't run like you once did. Like, you ain't taking the top off the defense, right? But if you have little injuries along the way, but you will always fundamentally sound as a wide receiver, you still going to be able to come back and still be able to make plays. So he has that skill set that keeps you in the NFL for a long time. Can't say I'm glad to see Mike T go. Think the same way people are saying AK and other players are washed, but can't really confirm that without factoring in the O-line and quarterback play, plus OC play calling. Yeah, I'm telling you, I've said that. I just think that we complain and we talk about the play calling is vanilla and uninteresting, unmotivating, uninspiring. We talk about all these different things, and then we'll turn around and talk about, well, the players washed. Well, we complain about the team and some of the decisions that are being made in order for the team not to be able to reach certain success. We'll say that and then turn around and say a player washed. That you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways, right? It's, you basically answered your own question. So by saying that a player is washed, like, to me, I just feel like you basically lying to yourself. Like, if Alvin Kamara plays like he's played over the last couple of years with a new offensive coordinator, new offensive staff, and a new offensive philosophy, then I think that we can probably have a conversation about where he is in this stage of his career. But I'm not going to sit up here and talk about a player being washed and a player not being good when I know that the conversations, and most of the conversations that we've had here on this podcast, has been that the Saints offensive and defensive staff, as a staff organization and crew, have not put these guys in the best position to succeed. So if you're putting players out there, to me, you're just trying to find someone to blame. And, I can't have that. Can't have it both ways. I think Michael Thomas was waiting on a good quarterback. I mean, what wide receiver wouldn't? I mean, it's a dependable position. Like, I don't care how great you are. If you don't have a good quarterback, nobody going to know how great you are. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure he was waiting on one. I think A.T. Perry could fill the role personally. I don't know if A.T. Perry gonna be 149 catch, 1,700 yard receiver. But I do feel like certain things that Michael Thomas did that made him successful on a lower scale, you can probably get that from A.T. Perry because you already got your number one guy in Chris Olave. You already got your number two guy in Rashid Shaheed. And if you add on like Juwan Johnson, who I feel like is going to have a larger role, and some of the running backs catching the ball out of the backfield, if A.T. Perry can give you, let's just say if A.T. Perry can get you about 40 catches, maybe like 550, 600 yards or something like that. Like if he can get you something like that, then that, to me, that would be a successful season for A.T. Perry based on what the Saints have and how the depth chart is lined up. Now, knocking on wood when I say this, if somebody goes down and he comes in and he goes over 1,000 yards, I mean, that would be a plus, and that would be a great asset for the New Orleans Saints. But I don't think that you need A.T. Perry to be Michael Thomas, because what you're saying is, you're looking at him as the number one receiver, and that ain't it. Mike T did not want to get hurt from bad quarterback play. Drew Brees spoiled him. Yeah, I mean, look, Drew Brees spoiled a lot of people. Like, when you run his route, he gonna throw you the football. If somebody guarding you, he's still gonna throw you the football. Right? I mean, that's any great quarterback scrimmage. That's any great quarterback. Like any great quarterback is gonna spoil a wide receiver. And maybe Michael Thomas wouldn't feel the way that he did if he didn't come from prosperity. Like, you start off in a penthouse and now you're in an outhouse when it comes to quarterback play. That's kind of hard to accept. And once again, the wide receiver position is a dependable position. It's a dependable position. You need your quarterback to throw you the football in order for you to make plays. If your quarterback stinks and you're not good, then no matter how much talent you possess, nobody will know. Organizations will always do what is best for them. This is why when a player is holding out or refuses to take a pay cut, I back the players and get your money. Look, all I'm saying is, Dolph, I agree with what you're saying, number one. Number two, I'm for the player, because the organization is going to go into self-preservation mode more times than not. Like, they may not say it, but they look at these players as, expendable. Like, the wheel's going to keep turning. Like, how many New Orleans Saints players have there been since you were born, right? The wheels keep turning. So, in the process, if these players can get their money, I'm all for it. Is it fair to say Mike Evans is unique wide receiver, maybe? Yeah, I think he is. He's had 1,000 yards every year of his career. Like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or not, like Mike Evans or not, like he's worth being talked about. He's worth the praise that he gets because, I mean, he has been consistent year in, year out. I mean, you had the Julios, you had the Calvin Ridleys, you had the Roddy Whites, you had the Mike Thomases, right? And this guy just remains true. I mean, Steve Smith. I mean, you've had some great NFC South wide receivers, but he's been consistent. He's been the most consistent. And I think you have to give him his flowers. You got to. I'm gonna miss Mike T. Some of y'all was annoying by the Twitter rants, but I personally appreciate the pettiness and transparency from our players when things are wrong. Everyone else, company guys, and use body language. Well, all I'm saying is we're not running for political office here. So we ain't looking for optics. Look, wrong is wrong. And if that's how that man feels, that's how he feels. And he said it. Like, he done got paid. So he ain't got to sit up here and toe the line and hush his mouth. He can be outspoken. He can really say how he feels, and I think that's what a lot of players do. Like, it's not the fact that they yes men, but they understand, like, they got to be quiet in order for them to be able to put themselves in a position to make some noise, to be able to stand up for the little man, to be able to express their feelings. Like, Michael Thomas has what you call FU money, right? You know what I'm saying? Like when you make certain amount of money, it's like you don't care what people say. And like he that's his truth. That's the way that he feels. And if we gonna sit up here and we have these coaches and stuff like that sit at the podium and say things, you tell them. If we gonna sit up there and say that, then why are we getting upset when a player is telling us how he feels about the team? You know, we got to be careful. Like we had a problem with, the whole shut up and dribble thing came out about LeBron James. So are we saying shut up and catch the football? We got to think about that too. No, I mean, this guy has a right to give his opinion. He's in the locker room. He sees what's going on every day. He sees the, certain things that he doesn't like. And it's well within his rights to say how he feels. Mike T gonna speak his mind like his uncle Keyshawn Johnson. Exactly. Tyler Boyd would be a decent replacement for Mike and add some veteran leadership to the room, maybe. I mean, yeah, I like Tyler Boyd. Always have. But I don't know. I don't know if I would go that route. I like the young dynamic of this team. If you want to get a veteran wide receiver just to have in the locker room, fine. But look, we already seen this work. I mentioned the Green Bay Packers a couple of weeks ago. You got Jaden Reed, you got Romeo Dobbs, you got Christian Watson, you got Kraft, you got Luke Musgraves, right? That's a young wide receiver group. I don't think combined those wide receivers haven't been in the league for 3 years. I think Christian Watson was going to his second season. So was Romeo Dobbs. Jaden Reed was in his first season. Kraft and Musgraves, the two tight ends that they had, were rookies. So, man, they were eating. So it doesn't, you don't need a veteran inside of the locker room. Maybe to provide a little bit of some leadership and help these guys to be able to navigate the uncharted waters that is being a young NFL player, but you don't necessarily need them in order for you to maintain success. For sure, I catch backlash because of our so-called rivalry. But I mean, Mike Evans fan, big body receiver, got swag and plays with passion. And plus, he's Lattimore's son. What's not to like? Yeah, I mean, Mike Evans has always been good. He was good at Texas A&M when he was out there catching passes from Johnny Manziel. So, I mean, he's always been good. Like, this isn't like, oh, he just came to the league, he was a beast. He's always been good. Always been as advertised. And then, like he has like you said, a level of swag or whatever like that he has going for him. And then like he from the Gulf Coast anyway, so got to give him respect for that. Like over there around the Galveston area. So, that's a different type of breed right there. That's like a spinoff of Louisiana player right there, like out there in Galveston and stuff. Musgraves reminds me of Jimmy Graham, freak athlete to pick up in fantasy. He reminds me of Tyler Eifert. Like Tyler Eifert was just as good. Tyler Eifert, tight end, he was a tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals. Like really good, really talented, just couldn't stay healthy. And Luke Musgraves reminds me of him. He also has a little Greg Olsen in him too. Like I see, kind of reminds me of Greg Olsen as well. A little bit of a throwback here, but he's still in the league. I think Mercedes Lewis, like he kind of reminds me of him too. Luke, look, I had a close up of Luke Musgraves. I seen like the entire process from the Senior Bowl to the Combine. Like the guy is good, and I think that he probably would have got more recognition if he wasn't coming out of Oregon State dealing with an injury. But I think that the Green Bay Packers got themselves a special tight end, and I think that he's going to be great for Jordan Love as Jordan Love learns to be a starter in the National Football League. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Once again, for those that may not know, my name is TJAY Jones. This is the State of the Saints podcast. We've been a podcast since 2018, has produced over 1,000 episodes, have had some incredible guests here on the show. Some of the most well-known names in NFL sports have come on this show. I'm asking everybody to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com, search The State of the Saints Podcast. Also, previous episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Anchor FM. And I'm also asking everybody, I just put the link inside of the comments for Bleacher Report. I do a weekly Bleacher Report podcast entitled Saints Talk with TJAY Jones. And I'm just asking everybody to follow that channel for you can get notifications of recent episodes that I do. Really just trying to push that. So I'm just asking everybody to support. We got 367 people watching this right now. And if 367 people can hit that link and follow this, then we'll get, to where we need to be. So I'm just asking everybody for their support. And thank you all for the love and thank you for your time. Also, you can follow me on X at TJAY Jones 8. That's TJAY Jones 8. And I really do appreciate everybody being here. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, your night, your afternoon, wherever you are right now. And like always, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.